Shalom, Kahala Yahweh Shemi Shai, the honors of the apostle and elders of great millstone who rule well, and salutations to the brothers on the four corners of the earth, pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. This is Ira from Great Millstone, Wisconsin, and I wanted to put out a little information about an operation called Operation Noble Eagle, and it's a operation or military tactic that's used by the United States that is basically going to be enacted, to invoke martial law. With everything that's taking place in the country, going from the culmination of the race riot to this fake ass presidential election, and the racial tensions are sparking up. I'm just in this, this document is to prove that America has been ready for martial law since 1986, and they have tactics or operations or programs in place to put the people down, when need be, whenever they choose to do so, you know proving that these elites, man, they know the scriptures, they understand the prophecies. So this is Operation Noble Eagle from the Wikipedia. It says Operation Noble Eagle is the name given to the United States and Canadian military operations related to homeland security and support the federal, state, and local agencies. The operation began 14th September 2001 in response to the September 11th attacks. Now, all I want to say is this: if the September 11th 9/11 bombing of the Twin Towers was such a surprise, and it was so totally random, so to speak, why 3 days later they already had a operation drawn up, and drawn on paper and ready to go right after the attacks? They did it because they already had this operation drawn up in the books, man. And it spawned from a different operation called Operation Garden Plot, which Operation Noble Eagle is just the modernized version, you know. So they've been gearing up for martial law for a very long time. They're just throwing the pieces to the puzzle in place so they can enact martial law, so they can finish their new world order. Now I'm going to go into the history a little bit. It says Operation Noble Eagle began with the mobilization of thousands of National Guard and Reserve personnel to perform security missions on military installations, airports, and other potential targets such as bridges, power plants, and port facilities. These reservists were called to active duty under a mobilization authority known as the Partial Mobilization, United States Code 10, 12302, in a time of national emergency declared by the President. Which, what does that sound like? That sounds like martial law. In a time of national emergency declared by the President, partial mobilization authorizes the President to order members of the Ready Reserve to active duty for a period not to exceed 24 consecutive months. So that's 2 years, you know. But thanks to the National Defense Authorization Act and the National Defense Resource Preparedness Act, Obama can enact martial law indefinitely. So that law supersedes this 24 consecutive months law in this operation. Operation Noble Eagle was a most recent activation of Operation Garden Plot. We're going to get into Operation Garden Plot in a little bit too. A plan which was developed to provide military assistance to civil authorities during the times of major civil disturbances. Which that's what your riots, man. When we read Operation Garden Plot, it's going to tell you that they created that operation just to combat race riots, man. You know, and there's a scripture for everything, man. This is Isaiah chapter 59, verse 19. So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun, when the enemy shall come in like a flood. And that's the police troops, man. I like to call them Gurga troopers, or paratroopers, from Star Wars, because that's exactly what they are, man. They're clones. They were created and programmed to do a specific job, and that's just kill. The Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him, and that standard is going to be, Michael the Archangel, man. Presume to Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. The Lord is going to throw out his Spirit, and the elect will be protected, man. And the Redeemer shall come to Zion, and unto them that turn from transgression in Jacob, saith the Lord. So the Lord is going to save those who, keeps the law, statutes, and commandments and performs his word, man. It's as simple as that. Because what's about to happen in this country, that involves the police and the National Guard and all, other factions of this military against the so-called Latinos, blacks and Native Americans, is not going to be pretty, man. The scriptures say it's going to be a time that was never before seen, a time of Jacob's trouble. Matter of fact, let me grab that. Because it's going to be really gruesome out here, man. People are going to be thrown out of their houses and machine gunned down in their sleep, you know. Slovakia. No, Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it, you know? And we're going to be saved out of it, man. The elect of the nation of Israel will be saved, man. But as for the 2/3 of our people, man, it's going to be a great time of trouble, man. Because they're going to be doing nothing but ravaging, pillaging, and murdering our people, man. Including their own people, but Jake is going to get it the worst. Point blank, period. You know? Let's go back to the Operation Noble Eagle. It says, additionally, in 2001 and 2002, thousands of members of the National Guard were activated at the order of their respective governors to provide additional security at airports. So this is telling you that they're running test runs. They were called up under the Title 32 of the U.S. Code, which means they were under state control, but with federal pay and benefits. You know, so they were still part of the federal government. They were just being controlled by by the lower factions, which were the state. They were called up under Title 32 of the United States Code, which means they were under state control, but with federal pay and benefits. The Royal Canadian Air Force assisted in providing defense of the northern border of the United States. So you got Canada involved in this too, man. And they're helping America out. So in case you try to flee to Canada, the Air Force of Canada is going to be on the border trying to gun you down. The United States Army, a 759th Military Police Battalion, 144th Military Police Company, and the 177th Military Police Brigade were assigned the task of protecting the White House, the Pentagon, and the Capitol. So just in case you try to storm, you patriots or you militias, man, you try to storm the White House and the Pentagon, they're gonna have something waiting for you, man. So these devils have covered all aspects of the playing field, man. All aspects, you know. Let me go into Operation Garden Plot. This is where the Operation Noble Eagle, the program stems from. It says the Department of Defense Civil Disturbance Plan, also known by its cryptonym Garden Plot, is a general U.S. Army and National Guard plan to respond to major domestic civil disturbances within the United States. So here it just said it was completely created to respond to domestic civil disturbances. And what's a civil disturbance, man? Riots, race riots. It says the plan was developed to response in the civil disorders of the 1960s and is now under the control of the United States Northern Command, which is NORTHCOM. It provides which comprises of the United States and Canada. It provides federal military and law enforcement assistance to local governments during times of major civil disturbances. The Garden Plot plan, drafted after the Watts, Newark, and Detroit riots, captures the acronymous times, and the document was drawn up. So it's telling you. So it's telling you that the riots were created, and the riots were used as a ploy to enact this operation, which is basically damn near martial law. The section outlining the Army's perception of the situation in America certainly insinuates the existence of an establishment who fear the disenfranchised. Which the disenfranchised are who? The Black, Latinx, Native Americans, and the other poor people of other nations that live here in this country, man, because they know that the system was created to be against them, and they understand that sooner or later these people are going to get smart and rise up. So we better have some machine guns to mow their ass down with. The plot warns against racial unrest as well as anti-draft and anti-Vietnam elements, which is anti-draft elements, anti-war, you know. So if you disagree with the war, you're going to get thrown in a concentration camp and mowed down with a machine gun as well, man. Nobody is safe from this devil, man. This is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2. You know, and this is going hand in hand with the race riots, man. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. You know, so everybody in America is being turned against each other one by one, minute by minute, man. And you can see that right now on the national television news. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof. And I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord of hosts. So, everybody's going to turn to their own devices to protect themselves from what's going to happen. But, it's going to be too late, man. The Lord is going to enact his vengeance and when he comes back. America's going to be, the elites of America are going to be under subjection, while the rest of you die here, man. You know, and the Lord he's drawing up that spirit of race riots and rebellion, man. This is Second Ezra chapter 15, verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And that's your militias, your pro-lifers, your anti-war, your pro-Christian, and your so-called apologetics too, man. Y'all gonna get caught up in this shit too, man. For there shall be sedition among men, meaning uprisings, you know. And these elites, they know the prophecies, man. That's why they have things like Operation Garden Plot and Operation Noble Eagle, man, to combat the scriptures, man, to combat the prophecies, you know. It's like it says, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, meaning they're not gonna, regard no police officers or military personnel. So the only thing that's gonna be left for them is to get shot, get put to death, man, to get roughhoused, to get beat up, to get tased and beat with batons, because these people aren't going to listen to reason. So what do you do with an animal that you can't reason with, or that you can't get to calm down? You put it down, man. And these people are going to be like animals in that day. It says, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, because the cities are going to be quarantined and blocked off, and highways are going to be blown up, or drawbridges are going to be drawn up. For because of their pride the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and the men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods, because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. You know, that's exactly what's going to bring in more riots, man, the lack of food. Because America is in a famine right now. Why do you think America is swallowing up these GMO companies to create these artificial foods, man? Because there are no real food. There is no real food or real crops grown in America as we speak. You know, that's also going to spark race riots. You know, nothing. There's nothing that's nothing's going to. There's nothing that Esau can do to stop this culmination of the prophecies from happening, man. You know. Let's see. I wanted to get one more scripture because this scripture embodies exactly what's going to happen, man. Because when this shit hits the fan, it's not going to be pretty, you know. Let's see. Now this is Matthew chapter 24, verse 16. It says, "Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains." Now this is obviously, the Lord was prophesying about the time of 70 A.D. when Titus and Pompey, when they sacked Jerusalem, man. You know, let him which is on the housetop not come down and take anything out of this house. I mean, why? Because it's not going to be safe there, man. And you speed that up to today, with the martial law and the government troops, storming the streets. There's not going to be any reason for us to go back to our houses, man, because it's going to be too dangerous. You're going to be risking death going down to get to get a new shirt or a new pair of shoes or an extra pair of pants or a drink of water or something. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes, like I just said. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. So if you got a little one, a toddler, or you're pregnant and you're about to give birth, man, it's not going to be an exciting time. Well, it is going to be an exciting time, but it's not going to be a pleasurable time for you. You're going to have some of the hardest times amongst any because you have to nurse those children. You know, and that day is going to be a lack of food, no medicine. You're going to be chased by military personnel. You have to duck your head, down every chance every time you walk around somewhere, man, to avoid being shot up. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So when this martial law hits and these pestilences start breaking out, and these sicknesses, man, it's going to be like something never seen before. And except those days should be shortened, there shall no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So basically, what that just said was nobody's going to be saved unless the Lord steps in. Yahweh unless He steps in and He puts an end to it, man. But it just gave you a hint that for the elect's sake, the days shall be short. Meaning the elect are the ones that are going to be saved out of it, man, and spared from a lot of this turmoil. So with that, that's the end of the video. And hope you brothers were ever edified. Call halal Yahweh Bashim Shai. Double honor to the apostle and elders of great millstone. And salutation to the brothers on the four corners of the earth, pushing His word in truth and in sincerity. Shalom.